Out is a half-hour multi-part series focusing on the LGBTQ community in Brandon, Manitoba, funded by the Community Radio Fund of Canada. This series will share the difficulties LGBTQ members have faced, the achievements and strides they have made, as well as the support received from the community. We hope the story shared will help those uncomfortable with any LGBTQ lives understand the opposite point of view and become more sensitive to the struggles they face, as well as provide support and information for any LGBTQ members in the area.
You were never intended more. You sold your stock and now you're poor. And though you fought in the war, you never won the day.
Hi, my name is Janek, and I am proud to help bring to you Out, a new series dedicated to the lives of Brandon's LGBT2SQ community. While much of the series will be covering the organizers and coordinators who hold the events, who advocate on behalf of community, the volunteers and professionals alike, they really are expected to give their voices in order to publicly represent their groups. They usually have much experience to do so and are the go-to people that the media will usually seek when needing to cover stories. But in order to give a more personal look into the lives of Westman's queer community, it was intended to gather interviews with the less activist, non-organizing people. That was the intention. The reality is much more difficult as, regardless of how one asked, the local LGBT community seemed a little too shy to be sharing their lives. In the interviews we did gather, perhaps it is telling that none of them are originally from Westman. In this third episode of what we call Queer Lives, a special side of this series, we will be joined by new Canadian and Brandon citizen Nikhil Kulkarni. Nikhil is originally from Mumbai, formerly known as Bombay, in India. He has come to this city by way of Aberdeen, Scotland, and Toronto, but has settled here and has come to love living in Brandon. He is goal-driven and has achieved much in his young life, but continues to actively advance his career. He is also very personable and eager to participate, and I met Nikhil through his volunteering for Brandon Pride. I am very grateful that Nikhil was open to an interview, as he has a unique perspective as a new Canadian and has a wonderful coming out story to share.
My first name is Nikhil. My last name is Kulkarni. I was born and raised in Mumbai, lived there for 23 years. Mumbai is the largest city in India and extremely busy. It's been deemed as one of the cities in the world which never sleeps, and it's always constantly on the move and extremely busy.
What do you do and how do you identify?
I would identify myself as a gay male, and I work at a bank, work as a financial advisor over there, have been working there for about 4 years, and prior to that I used to work for Burger King and McDonald's, worked there for about 6-7 years altogether.
And briefly, family is important to you, so briefly introduce your family here, too.
In my family, I just have my father and my immediate family right now. My mother passed away about 10 years ago, and I do have a couple of aunts and an uncle and lots of cousins, and I'm very close to them, and we are as close to each other as siblings.
So you have come a long way to talk to us here today. But first, when did you know you were gay?
I think I would have to say I was about 6 years old. I'll have to say that one of my cousins, at that time I had a huge crush onto him, I will not lie. I thought he was very cute and very sweet and very awesome. And he was about 3 years older than I was, and he kissed me, and I was like, okay, I kind of like this, and I realized that I like guys.
What made you decide to study abroad?
I knew when I was younger, I always had a fascination for going out of the country where I was born and raised, and so I wanted to go out of India, and the opportunity for UK came up. There was this one day I was just reading the newspaper, and I was looking for options for higher education, and I just wasn't sure if I wanted to do it in India or if I wanted to do it abroad. And then I saw an advertisement from the consultants which I actually used, and I don't mind taking their name. They're called as GB Education, and they're a big consultant back in Mumbai and India. And I saw their article in the paper about a seminar for studying abroad, so I decided to go to that seminar. I gathered some information from there. To me personally, it felt like cost-wise it was actually roughly the same cost as studying abroad or studying in India. But the duration times period required was shorter, because in the UK it was only a year's postgraduate study for master's, whereas in India it is 2 years. So that was one of the other added benefits because it was more intense in terms of study and also in terms of the actual knowledge obtained and the course content. It was extremely intense and there's lots of information to be gained from that. So that is what also it excited me. And also the other part which excited me was that I would be going into a completely different country, getting to know different people, different cultures, different food types, and make new friends and different weather. Would be seeing snow for the first time in December in my life, so that was some of the other reasons which were exciting for that too. So that's when I decided.
And you landed in Aberdeen.
I did.
And
Yes.
what's the university there?
Aberdeen has two universities. The older one is the Aberdeen University, which is the city's namesake as well, which is, you could say, the same as Brandon University, city namesake. The other university in Aberdeen is called as Robert Gordon University. It is also an older institution, like it has been around there from the 15th century, but at that time it used to be Robert Gordon College.
Okay.
As compared to university.
Which one did you go to?
I went to the Robert Gordon
Okay.
University, yes.
And so how was life in Aberdeen then?
Oh, life in Aberdeen was very exciting. Aberdeen is roughly the size of Regina or Saskatoon, to give a size comparison to our listeners. But it is extremely busy city because it's the oil capital of Europe, so they have lots and lots
North
of...
Sea oil, I get it, okay.
Yes, so they have lots and lots of people coming and in and out and different types of, like there's multinational companies operating because of the North Sea oil field, and basically Aberdeen's the port and the base, so that's where all their supplies go from and everything like that. So it's extremely busy, plus being two universities there, it has a big student population as well, about nearly, from what I've heard, nearly 1/4 to 1/3 of their students are international students.
Right, yes. So I was supposed to ask that if there's lots of international students. But you came out in Aberdeen, you mentioned.
Yes, I did.
Not to your family,
No.
but
To my friends and
Yes.
people who were living there and people I was
Professionally.
working with. Yes, so that's when I came out over there because I found that I had my freedoms and I was away from the...
close scrutiny perhaps, and
Yes.
maybe overly sensitive conversations that you didn't really want to deal with at that time.
Yes, yes, that's
I
true.
understand.
Yes, so that's when I came out over there, and my roommates knew, and people I worked with knew, people at the university knew, and
Did you get that liberating sense of feeling of
I
coming
did.
out? Stress relief
yes,
and a whole new understanding about yourself.
yes,
Isn't that wonderful?
it is.
Did you have
Yes.
anything to share?
On that one, I don't really remember that part that much. Is because at that time I would have to say I was more concentrating on getting my degree done and trying to find a professional job because of course there's student debts to pay and everything. So I would have to say I didn't really give it much thought, but it did feel really nice because then I didn't have to pretend about being someone I was not, and it was a very, as you said, Jan, a very liberating feeling. It was a very, it also helped my confidence to a bit, and then I could just be myself, and I found that I was a lot happier than what I used to be before, because I was not trying to hide something.
Scotland sounds wonderful. I've just stepped briefly into it, and it was really, really interesting. So unique. And you told me you have liked it there, but you made the decision to emigrate to Canada.
Honest answer is I did not want to go back to India because I did not really like it there. It's even though Mumbai is a big city and it's busy, but it's too crowded. And of course, there's the social stigma associated with the community there. So that was one of the reasons I never wanted to go back to India. And immigration in UK was becoming difficult. The laws were getting stricter for students, international students, to become permanent residents and continue their stay and work there. So I was looking at other options, and Canada came up. And at that time, I used to work for Burger King. So restaurant managers were under the immigration occupation required shortage list. So that's why I decided to apply under that one, and so applied for that, got the residency and moved to Canada. And one of the other reasons was also is that because Canada is one of the first countries which are so inclusive, so that was the other factor as well, which helped me choose why I wanted to come to Canada.
And at first you settled in Toronto for a little bit.
Yes, I was there for about 4 months.
Okay. And what challenges did you encounter as a new immigrant to Canada?
I would have to say they were more or less the same challenges, like, coming to a brand new place, trying to make new friends, trying to get a job, trying to then get into a professional job for which you have studied or something like that, trying to build your own house, trying to become a part of the community, trying to, make new friends, and getting to know the community, learning the history and the culture of the community. So I would have to say the usual challenges which any new immigrant would face. But I have to say it has been a really positive experience that I have found people who have always been helpful and have guided me through the different processes, and I feel that I have a big support group from my friends and family, so that's why it has been a very positive move, I would have to say.
Well, in Brandon we have Westman Immigrant Services. Did you require any of their services or counterparts, say in Toronto?
Not really. Not to a very big extent. I kind of had gone there to the counterpart equivalent in Toronto to get information about job postings and things like that. And I had guided a couple of my friends who were new immigrants at that point of time to Westman Immigrant Centers, especially to help with their English and with a couple of other information sources they needed.
How did you come to settle in Brandon?
Initially, I was only supposed to be in Brandon for about 2 to 3 weeks, just covering up some shifts for my previous employer. And that's when I kind of, okay, this is a small, cute, nice place, and you can get from one end to the other quite quickly, and you do find everything you need, so you don't have to really travel to a big place to get it. So I kind of started liking that, and found that cost of living was also economical. So the kind of 2 weeks ended up becoming 5 years now.
Okay. Oh, what is it like to live in Brandon for you?
I find that it's very nice, it's very quiet and very calm. I find that I can have a good work-life balance here in Brandon because, of course, I don't have to commute for 2 hours. Like when I used to live in Toronto, I had about an hour 15.
Both ways?
Both ways.
Oh my gosh.
Each way, yeah.
Still, yes.
It's about a 2.5-hour commute every day. Mm-hmm. So I find that now I can actually walk to work within about 7 minutes.
Well, in Brandon, I know one thing for me specifically. You're very positive, by the way, and it's really gracious. But I find it can be very lonely. Is Brandon, we said Brandon was welcoming, but do you face any unique challenges as a queer person of color?
I do find that in terms of activities, maybe going out or going out with friends or something like that, we do have very limited options. Compared to that, also, I find that there are museums in Brandon, but there are not that many, and I've seen all of them. So I kind of, being a museum buff, I kind of miss having some big museums which can be explored in detail, like in some of the bigger centers. And of course, the dating field of Brandon, because the community here is very shy.
Small.
Yes, and very shy and still very closeted.
So you'd agree, it's kind of lonely here. And
yes, from that perspective.
do issues of racism affect your life?
I haven't really felt any to that extent, so I can't really comment on that. I would be completely lying if these issues don't exist. They do exist, and I haven't really felt them to that much extent, so I would rather not say, because maybe my views might be clouded by me not having a real kind of a bad experience or something like that.
That's a very honest answer. So getting to know Brandon's our very small and very shy LGBTTQ community here in Brandon, how did you discover the community?
Actually, that was very interesting. That the first time I knew about that was, I think I would have to say, about 2 years ago. That's when I found out that, oh, Brandon had a Pride parade. That was the day after. I was like, oh, we had a parade. Yeah. I was like, oh, we had a Pride parade, and I couldn't go to it, and I was so disappointed.
Gotta wait till next year, no?
Exactly. And then the next year, which was last year, so I kind of made it a point, okay, to keep an eye on the Pride's Facebook site too, so that we could make sure that I knew the date when it was happening, I knew the times. And so then I decided to go to the Pride Parade, which is my very first Pride Parade. So I'm very happy that I was able to attend that. And it was a very, 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 very positive and very interesting experience. And I absolutely loved my experience last year. Did meet someone special actually at the Pride Parade. Unfortunately, we're not together anymore, but
That's romantic, though.
oh, thank you. And that's why it was a very positive and a nice experience. And I think this year, through my work and also through my own personal, that I want to be involved more with the community and with Brandon Pride. It kind of helped me be more proactive and get in touch with more people and gave a lot more insight. And now I'm happy to say that I have made a lot more friends than previously through Brandon Pride. So it was very.
That's really what it's there for, isn't it? Most importantly, it's for us to get together and gather and make friends and touch base with and form community.
Exactly.
But you haven't got into, and thanks for allowing me to introduce this, is that it was kind of like your second coming out at Pride, and this time it was with your father.
Yes.
Well, that sounds also so wonderful. Could you please tell us that story?
Oh, sure. I decided to come out to my family in 2014 because I like to say that I kind of could not stall my parents. They wanted me to get married, and I ran out of valid excuses as per my father. That's his wording for that. And so I had my financial and life goals to achieve, and he decided to wait until I said that, oh, I have achieved all my goals. And then when that happened, he started pestering me. So what's happening? So I was like, okay. And I think it's time. Okay, I also have run out of reasons to give, and I think now I should be truthful. So I first told it to my cousin, and my female cousin, and my male cousin. He was the second one to know. And then I told my aunt, my female cousin's mother, and then I told my uncle, my male cousin's father, and finally I told my father 3 years ago.
So you did come out to your father, but so tell me what happened on Brandon Pride then, your first Pride, because you were there together, right? He was visiting.
Oh, yes, he was visiting. I had told him that I'm going to go to the Pride Parade. Okay, he didn't say anything, but when we were walking along Rosser, which is kind of my back alley, I saw him standing on the street there trying to see the parade. So that kind of felt nice, because I kind of felt like, okay, even though he's not in the parade exactly, he is there somewhere trying to, either accept it, and because he's back in India, so he has that social issues to deal with.
There's a lot to learn about, so that he could just be learning about.
He could have been. So that's why it was quite interesting, because it kind of felt like, yes, there is some support and there is some positivity going to come out of it.
All right, so back to Brandon Pride a little bit more. You've also did some volunteering this year. What did you do?
This year I went to make the posters on the Sunday before the week began, and then I went to the flag hoisting that day. I also went to the trivia night, but I couldn't do any of the other stuff because of schedule and everything like that. But we were at the Pride Parade, and it was very nice. We were basically there for the whole day, for the parade and for the Pride in the park as well, and enjoyed the barbecue and Then I also went to the social that night with a friend, which was also extremely fun. I couldn't went to the social last year, but didn't stay there too long. But this year, decided to stay there for a bit longer. So it was so much fun, and got to meet new people, make new friends. So that was amazing.
Dancing.
Yes,
So, what else do you do for fun?
I like traveling. Love traveling. Have traveled the UK when
And
was
you,
there.
You visit museums.
I do. Oh my God, yes. You could throw me into a museum and then forget that I was even existing. I would be lost in it. I just went to the Modern Museum on Wednesday. That's the Canadian Fossil Discovery Center, which was amazing. Which had they had fossils of a Mesosaurus, which was actually discovered in Manitoba. Interestingly, would you believe that 400 million years ago, I think that was what was said over there. Manitoba was under 300 feet of water.
Yeah, I do. I believe it. I've seen the maps.
And I also like traveling, interesting new places. Went to the Shetland Islands, went to London, England, and traveled extensively. Not extensively, but a lot in the UK when lived there.
What about, okay, traveling is awesome. It sounds like you're doing a great job of that.
Oh, thank you.
But what about things related to the LGBTQ community?
For fun, I would like to go to many of the activities which happens, but many a times with work schedule and everything, things don't really go out that way. But I do like to keep an eye on the Facebook page for Brandon Pride, and so what events are upcoming, and try to make it a point to events I could go to.
Sorry, you're going to go to Queer Your Orientation to Stefan Irvin at the BU LGBTTQ Collective. There's several events coming up.
I am trying to,
Okay.
but of course it's dependent upon schedule permitting, because it usually, if it's in the morning or something like that, I usually can't make it.
Well, there is a serious lack of things to do for Westman LGBTQ, and we're often really creative with our options and what we do. But do you go to Winnipeg, perhaps?
Once in a while.
And community. Much of my work producing shows for CJ 106 has been documenting community in Brandon. And I've had some wonderful interviews with people from the East Indian community here. What can you tell me about connecting with East Indian culture here in Westman?
Like from what I have seen over the past 5 years, I have lived in Brandon and around Westman. It used to be a very small community when it started off with not too many people, but we have grown as a community in terms of numbers. We have grown quite a lot. Also in terms of activities, also we have grown quite a lot. We have a couple of events coming up this month and next month, especially for Diwali, which is a big festival in Hinduism and in the East Indian culture, and it's to kind of put it into a context, it's very equivalent to Christmas. So
Where's the event going to be taking place?
I think it's spread out. They have
Okay.
2 or 3 different venues, but this time one of the events is actually happening, and this is really big, is because now it's happening in the Manitoba room of the Keystone Center. Usually it used to happen at the Knox United Church, which was a smaller venue, but this now looks like it's grown quite a lot, and so I'm quite excited to maybe try and take it in this year.
Yeah, and that's available to the general public too, right?
It is, yes. It's of course entry by tickets, but anybody who wants to get tickets can definitely attend, and of course enjoy the delicious food and all the
Dances.
activities, dances and singing and everything like that.
Do you find that community is important for you as a person here in Manitoba?
I do find that yes, community is important, and I try to be available for anybody who needs help in terms of helping them. I do find that the East Indian community is still trying to get to terms with with the LGBT community and Pride. So I do find that it makes conversation a little bit awkward over there. So I do try to avoid the some of the events just to not make other people uncomfortable, especially within the East Indian community.
Well, it's maybe the lives of LGBTQ people around the world are changing drastically, the reality. And in India, we see a slow but steady growth, acceptance of sexual minorities. I think there was even legislation just passed this last week with human rights protection.
Now I do find that they're getting more support. There are few more pride parades happening within India.
Really?
Yes, and there are like more and more people are coming out. I haven't really had much touch with with the country back there because of course I'm in Canada and have been out of India for 9 years, so don't really have much touch left over there. But from what I have realized and understood is that support is increasing. More parents are becoming supportive of their children. The community as a whole is becoming more and more supportive.
Do you see LGBTQ representations in film in India or in Bollywood?
Yes, representation actually has increased over the last few years. Maybe it's not as supportive as what we would expect over here in Canada, but its representation's definitely increased, and people are more open to talking about it as compared to the previous years, wherein it all used to be it used to be a totally off the limits topic.
We also see big changes happening regarding LGBT people in Brandon and Westman, like in Canada. Changes are still happening and growing all the time. What can you tell people generally about our community? What would you like them to know? What can people do to help better understand our lives?
The first thing is, of course, we are also human beings and we have the same emotions and we go through the same fears and same aspirations and same aims and objectives. Basically, if you don't know anything, you can just come up to us and ask, because if you ask it in a friendly way, we would be very much happy to answer all your questions, because in that way you were curious, you asked a question and we answered, and we got to know each other better, and then it helps us to as members of the community, helps us build allies, because then people know more about us and then they are willing to help us and they're more open about accepting us, so it helps to build friends and allies for the community. And also if you wouldn't ask, then you wouldn't know, and then it might continue with it might not be the proper information which you might be needing. So that's the key things which I think are important is having open communication and having an open mind. And as a message to members of our community as well, I would like to give is sometimes some people might be awkward in asking their questions, so sometimes it's necessary that we also acknowledge that shyness and then try to help them get more comfortable in asking their questions too, so that they are more open-minded to the receiving the information as compared to, because I have seen a couple of instances wherein open communication didn't really possibly happen, and what could have been an amazing conversation and start of a wonderful friendship might end up being, just leaves a sour taste in everyone's mind, and nobody then wants, doesn't want to do that. This actually happened not to me, but I was at a barbecue about last year, I would have to say, and I guess proper questions were not asked, or maybe they were misunderstood and nobody repeated themselves or something like that, and then the conversation between those two people went really, really bad.
That was an awesome interview. Thank you for telling me a lot about and sharing with us your life stories. What's your future plans and goals?
On a personal level, I would definitely like to find my someone special and settle down, maybe have a baby or adopt a baby in the near future. Professionally, I would also expect to grow further in my career. I would have to say I've already started taking some steps towards that as well. And I like Brandon. I've lived here long and I do love the people over here. But sometime in the near future, I would like to move back to a bigger center.
Well, I want to thank you very, very much, Nikhil, for this great interview, and best of luck in your future.
Thank you so much, Jan. It was a pleasure talking to you too, and thank you so much to everyone who is listening. Thank you.
That was Nikhil Kulkarni giving his story as part of our Queer Lives Focus. I wish to thank him greatly for his willingness to share his story with you. Please join us again to hear more stories from Brandon's LGBT2SQ community. My name is Jan Eck, and you have been listening to Out on CJ 106 FM.
Falling.